grew up chasing flathead on baits, and to this day, many a weekend is spent with the kids chasing a flatty or two on baits. I've got the bait on board, you bring the rods and reels. Going to spend a few hours soaking a bait, see if we can catch a flatty. Right around our coastline, the flathead is a very popular fish for a reason. They're prevalent and they're easy to catch. They also grow big. We've got our dusky species, which is one of our more northern common flathead species, and it grows to 1 metre. Down south we've got our southern blue spotted flathead, also known as the yank, and it also grows to 1 metre. In between there's about 20 species, which are really popularly sought and caught from the estuaries to the offshore waters. First part is finding them. Anywhere you've got a little bit of depth is a great place to soak a bait. Preferably, you're going to find a bit of depth where it's got a feeder point. So you've got current bringing bait to those fish that are going to ambush food coming through. I'm just coming up to a spot now where I've got a big shallow expanse. There's always going to be food up in there, and as this tide starts to push into this deeper water that we're sitting on now, I fully expect there to be a few flathead sitting here waiting, and hopefully they're going to find my bait along with all that other food that they're waiting for. When it comes to choosing an outfit for flathead, it doesn't have to be high tech. It's one of the first outfits I started using, and it still gets a workout. It's an Alvy on a lightweight ugly stick. You can use bait casters, you can use a thread line like this outfit, 3 to 6 kilo rod, 10-pound braid, 20-pound monofilament. You can use a hand line. If it fits with your budget and you're comfortable using it, you'll catch a flathead on it. Flathead will eat a selection of baits, so make sure you take a few varieties with you on a day out. Fresh is best, get live stuff if you can, but they'll eat crustaceans, they'll eat our small bait, pilchards, strip bait, squid. A selection like that will keep you well covered for a day on the water. There's 3 predominant rigs we use when we're targeting flathead, and this would be one of the most common. It's the running sinker rig. We have a sinker down to swivel and then a trace. If you're bait fishing, 20-pound mono is a great starting point. The reason we use our running sinker rig is it frees up our bait. So if you're going to use live baits or dead baits, it lets it behave a little bit more naturally in the water, also lets fish move a little bit with it. We can then adapt the rig to let a sinker run straight down on top of the hook, which is perfect if you want to drift with baits like prawns in the estuaries. We've then also got a paternoster rig, so sinker on the bottom, couple of droppers, and it's typically used if you're drifting for flathead offshore. When it comes to hook arrangements, we've got our gang hook rig, which is perfect for fishing our bigger fish baits. You can then have a snelled hook rig, ideal for big baits and strip baits, and you can also use your single hook, which is ideal for nose hooking live baits and fishing smaller baits like prawns. Regardless of the type of bait you're using, the concept of rigging your bait is always the same. You want the hook size you're using to match the bait, let it present well, and also give you adequate gape to hook fish. In this case, I'm using some gang rigs, and I'm going to run the hooks through the middle of the bait. As you can see, we've got adequate gape. That bait matches the hook size, and it's going to present well on the water. There we go. That little anchor paid off. There's 2 approaches you can use when targeting flathead on baits. You can anchor for them, and you can also drift for them. At the moment we're anchored, and we're here for a reason. There's some shallows up there draining into a deeper section. The idea being I'm going to use a variety of baits and position them around the depths until we can see what fish are hanging around. This isn't a flathead, it's a brim. It's taken our pilchard bait. Good old Alvy strikes again. And typically when you're fishing in a spot, I'd give a spot like this 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. If I haven't had a bite, then I'm going to move on. But experiment with your baits, different variety of baits, putting them in different sections of your deeper spots. If you don't get a bite, move on. This is a likely looking sign. If there's brim, there's going to be a flathead here somewhere. This rig has caught me more flathead than I'd care to think. It's a simple prawn rig. It's 1 knot, 2 sinkers to make a bit of noise in the water. It looks very lifelike, and that bouncing along the bottom will tempt flathead wherever you choose to fish it. Yup. Oh, there's one. Had to be one in that channel somewhere. Yes. Sneaky little prawn rig, does it again. Oh, let's go watch his head shakes. This guy hasn't really played up for me too much yet. He's not a bad fish. Look at that. Such cool fish. In you go. Drifting, gotta love drifting for flathead. You just get to see more fish. And when they fish like that, there's a whole lot to love. Good way to end a session. Didn't quite chew as hard as I thought they would, but fish like that to cap it off, you've got to be happy.